All right, I'm here with Chuck Bennington. Chuck, I'm going to give you a brief introduction, but welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
You are currently the lead coach for CrossFit Gymnastics, which means on any given weekend, if someone signs up to learn more about gymnastics, they're going to meet you and improve their pull up, their planche, their scaling, all the cool things that are coming up on CrossFit.com.
Yeah. It's coaching education primarily. And if you learn something as a coach, you can at least apply it to yourself as an athlete. So we try to really make sure that we cover both ends of that spectrum.
In addition to that, you've been a box owner for 4.5 years. And then, this is cool stuff that people that maybe haven't heard of you've been around a long time. You ran GSX CrossFit with the infamous Jeff Tucker, who will probably be on the show in the near future. And back in the day, much like myself, you ran the old school sectionals.
Yeah. 2010.
So people don't understand that. They're so used to seeing, obviously the games are evolving, right? It's changed. But back in the day, there was probably about 2, maybe 3 years where we actually did it was almost like an independent event. We ran our own workouts.
Yeah.
In other words, we got to decide what the workouts were. They were different in all of the regions around the country, around the world. But then that ultimately fed to the CrossFit Games. So I ran the Northeast, and we had different workouts, and you guys ran the South Central. You guys actually created those workouts. Do you remember what they were?
We did, I probably won't get the order correct, but there was one that was double unders, deadlifts, and a sandbag run. There was strict handstand push-ups and muscle ups.
Back
yeah,
then.
Man, that was an interesting event to watch go down.
What was the standard?
We used the standard dimension competitive box at that time, but beyond that, it was just, head makes contact in the bottom and then full extension lockout at the top and wait for the rep to be given at the top by the judge. Let's see, that was the final workout. It was strict handstand push-ups, ring muscle ups, some hang squat cleans, or maybe they were from the ground, and then there was a trail run / little hill run. There's a little bit of elevation behind GSX. We had done a 10-minute Cindy in a weight vest, but because Tucker is a gymnastic purist, the pull-up standard was the chin breaking both the horizontal and vertical plane of the bar. So, at the infancy of the butterfly pull-up, when everybody had kind of lost their mind about how fast the cycle time was, a lot of people sort of lost their pull-up in the middle of, what was regionals at that point. So that was, between that and a strict handstand push-up, those were the two big gymnastic pieces that I think people were kind of like, oh, well, this is very different. Like, what happens when the standards change? And so it created some good conversations in the community. We had done a snatch and overhead squat complex ladder. I remember the heaviest weights went up to 225, 135, which back at that time, those were few and far between lifts to be made in the CrossFit community. So we got to see like some of the first handful of guys and girls making 225, 135 in a competitive, fitness environment. That was a very cool moment for the community. There was a lot that was like very special back then. Not that any of it's not special now, but it's cool to have watched the change and evolution through the years for sure. And then what you're speaking to about the regional directors having different programming, it was always fun to see where those athletes that fed through to the games ended up placing once the programming was standardized. It was not just a test of the fitness being balanced for the competitors, but it was how balanced the programming was, the rung before that.
It's funny because, you have someone that was great at gymnastics coming out of Texas, for example, they might get demolished at the games. And I think I've told this story on the podcast before, but it was one of the years I was making the workouts and I was on the phone with Dave Castro. And I was like trying to come up with the cool workouts, the unique ones. And Dave was on the phone and he literally goes, "Why do you hate CrossFit so much?" And it was like, because I was trying to make this cool thing. And he actually showed up in our parking lot. That's where the event was. And I remember there's a video of him talking about what he didn't like about the workout because it was like so contrived and you had to like follow instructions and it was so much different than what we know to be smart programming now. And it just shows how far CrossFit has come.
Yeah, I mean, that early on, like we were all still learning too. Like the community was learning as a whole through this, open source model that's been very cool to watch evolve. But we didn't even know what we didn't know as coaches, as gym owners, as athletes. It's been a very fun ride to have been involved in all of this for, the better part of like 11 or 12 years now.
So Tucker back in the day was very well known, seen all over the place. And I think he's still well known, well respected, but you used to show up to a gymnastics seminar and you'd see him. He's kind of taking a back seat. He's traveled the world. I remember him, when I first met Tucker, I was hosting the gymnastics seminar in Albany and he flew in from Australia and he
Yep.
was exhausted. And, now you're running it. How did you meet Tucker to begin with?
The same way a lot of people made relationships back in the day on the old .com message boards, actually.
So the old school message board, I don't even know if there's, I
Oh,
don't think
they're
it's
up
still,
there.
are they still up there?
You can get to them. I was looking for a super old post last year when our dog had passed because I'd put some pictures of him up back in 2008, and that's when I was on the message board. And it actually was what led me to my now wife, Vanessa. She was a client at GSX, and she also had a workout log and the message board. So we started interacting through there, and Tucker was on the message board, and he started coaching me in my gymnastics remotely. Because I mean, you remember 2008 CrossFit, like the list of resources was about as big as your hands put together. So Instagram wasn't even a thing. Facebook was just in its infancy. Like I think there was maybe 3 videos about muscle ups on all of YouTube. So I didn't have the resources that all of these, young bucks have now. And so Tucker was, he was kind of helping me with my gymnastics from afar. And Vanessa and I started chatting, and it kind of worked out well that January 2nd, 2009, I flew from Sarasota, Florida out to Fort Worth, Texas to do my L1. And then the rest, they say, is history.
So did you fly there specifically to meet with Tucker as well?
Yeah, it was Tucker and Vanessa. I got in a day early, and we went and had some Mexican food and whiskey because, when in Texas and when with Tucker, you're like, it's either going to be barbecue or Mexican. Whiskey's probably a part of the equation one way or another. And ended up going back out to GSX in Fort Worth in March for my weightlifting seminar, and that was a cool time. Had like everybody there. It was Berg, Sage, Ursula. I mean, just very, very cool, fond memories of it. And then July 2009 is when I had moved out there to start coaching at Tucker's Box, and so that's kind of where it all started to fall together.
All from the message board, and people need to go find them. I mean, maybe we'll try to post a link in the show notes, but yeah, the message. I was a moderator for a small period of time, but yeah,
I remember that.
Back in the day, it was like people had their workout logs on there. Coach Glassman used to post on there, comment on things.
Yep.
And that's really cool. I mean, you changed your life there, not just with your job, but with your wife.
Yeah, like you've seen it too. Just haven't been around. Like, it's cool to go back and see like the people that we know now as these very important figureheads in our community when they were just garage gymming CrossFitters trying to like learn and develop the methodology, and everybody was making equipment by hand. Rogue wasn't on the scene yet. It was the beginning of Again Faster at that point. It's just it's crazy how much things have changed, and with that, how much of it is still kind of stayed the same. But yeah, a lot of people that are very connected professionally and maybe outside of the professional life, like my wife and I in an intimate way, but there's a lot of people that connected through those old .com message boards and just, post time to comments. Like it all kind of started there for a lot of us.
Yeah, and it's true. I mean, I met most of the people that have been on this show from Coach Bergner to David Osorio to Adrian
Oz.
Bosman. Yeah, it was all people there, and quite a few more still coming on. People like, how do you know everybody? It's like you're involved in the community. And I remember specifically in my life looking up to a man named Greg Amundsen, who I have
Yeah.
on the calendar to be on this show, and that name probably does nothing for anyone listening right now, right? And
That's so unreal to me because he was like the original fire breather.
and he's
And
still the man. Like he's still
oh
super
yeah.
fit, still awesome. He had a specialty seminar, but I remember when we exchanged phone numbers, and I was like, "Wow, this guy's my friend now."
Yeah.
And it was like I looked up to him for years.
Oh yeah.
Um,
I met him face to face for the first time 2 or 3 years ago at the SME meeting out in San Diego, and it was just like, wow, man! I remember when I was watching your Windows Media Player videos, just trying to wrap my head around like how a 4-minute Fran is even humanly possible. Um,
or GI Jane, he had that GI Jane
I
video,
remember it, man. Oh, that's so
and
funny.
he was switching his grip, and I was like, "Oh my god, you could switch your
That's
grip
such a good
on
strategy.
the floor?" Yeah. So I'm excited to have him on because the dude is like doing so many cool things right now. But
Yeah, he'll be an awesome interview for you.
so, moving out there, you changed this direction of your life. You became part of the gymnastics seminar crew, and a lot of people know you from that. How did it go from like, hey, I just want to improve my gymnastics to being, I mean, this is probably a bold term, but you're like a virtuoso when it comes to gymnastics now. And it's probably, you're going to say no, I get it. Like to the average person, though, you're the shit when it comes to gymnastic movements. How can somebody listening get that good at gymnastics as an adult?
So I think you hit on something that'll, I will answer that in depth, but I think it ties back to one of your more recent episodes on empathy and being somebody that has gone through the journey and the struggle and the process. Like if I can do it, you can do it. And so for a number of years, I was the black sheep of the gymnastics seminar staff family, and that I was the only guy that hadn't come from a formative gymnastic background. I'm a former fat kid, non-athlete, and like CrossFit is what built every bit of like fitness and capacity that I have in my life. Um, so it's understanding, if we want to get into it, like the methodology side, like knowing that what we've got laid out as far to like the L1 handbook, like it's all in there. And I think that you don't even appreciate the true gold nuggets of wisdom that exist in this community until you've been around for a while. But you look at world class fitness in 100 words. Out of that entire movement list, 50% of the movements are gymnastic movements, which means that like the other 50% is literally everything else: barbell, kettlebell, monostructural stuff, like odd objects. If you look at the hierarchy of athletic development, like gymnastics is very close to the base of all of the cool kids stuff. If you look at the 10 general physical skills, so we talk about this in the seminar, everybody's real good at cardio, stamina, and strength as priorities in their training. They neglect, almost deliberately, many clients neglect flexibility and then coordination, agility, balance, and accuracy. And so like there's these 5 general physical skills that we need for fitness that people generally avoid, and they wonder why their measures of power and speed aren't improving. So the answer for getting better at gymnastics is really just like do the stuff that you're not doing. And it's really, there's a lot of low hanging fruit out there for people, especially once they get a few years into their athlete journey and maybe the PRs have really slowed down. Maybe training has, got a little bit more plateaus than, kind of these peaks of success. If you step back and you objectively look at, your movement list in your programming, similar to that world class fitness 100 words, if you're dodging what should be the predominance of the movements in like a good balanced CrossFit methodology program, well then there's something that you're going to make progress in quickly. If you're underexposed to a bunch of general physical skills that we know truly build to fitness, there's a lot of easy stuff to make progress in, because it's kind of like your first year in CrossFit is the best thing in the world because you're just on a PR train, man. It's like default PR, default PR, default PR. um, you still have that. Like, even after multiple years of CrossFit, if you've never spent any time deliberately working on an element, like, there's still a lot of default PRs to have in there. And yeah, it's not quite the same to quantify gymnastic progress as it is to quantify barbell or monostructural progress. And I think that's part of the reason that people tend to shy away from it. It's that they don't have this, immediate gratification of another kilo, another pound, a second off, adding a rep. It's like, did I get better? I don't know. I still don't have a muscle. If I'm making any progress towards it, you have to really understand a little bit more of the journey versus the destination. And you have to understand that idea of buying into virtuosity. If you can make, incremental improvements in the very basic pieces of human movement and gymnastic shapes, like, it all eventually layers on top of itself. And, before you know it, you look up and you're like, holy shit, I can do some pretty cool stuff with my body.
And and what you're saying really lends itself to the black box that I've talked about. I guarantee if all of a sudden you can do a back lever, you're stronger.
Oh yeah. There's like some interesting data points that float around in like the ether of the internet, but for somebody that can do a back lever, like, gymnasts have seen like a very easy correlation of somewhere around like 2.5 times your body weight as a deadlift. Like, somebody that can hit a back lever, even as an untrained individual, they can probably cruise into like initial deadlift exposure being somewhere around like 2.5 times body weight, because it's just your entire posterior chain, contracting with a ton of midline stability to create, hip and knee extension. And I'll see if I can dig up a link to that, because I think that'd be an interesting thing for some people to see. But that's at least like one specific corollary of body weight strength to barbell strength that I know I've come across a couple times.
So many follow-up questions to that, but for one, what did you do to improve those movements? And again, first of all, Chuck just dropped a whole lot of knowledge. You could stop listening at this point and probably
I'm
spend.
I'm sorry for
No, I
getting
mean,
so.
you just you drop like half of the what is fitness lecture from the level one part of the gym, the 10 skills, and people need to realize that, you that was really great, but cool. People are buying
So
in.
actionable stuff.
Yeah, well, what is something they can do? Where can they go to learn this? Because I think, snatches and cleans and squats with load have become sexy. And I think part of that sexiness is, like you said, I can immediately see my improvement. I hit, whether it's a 20-pound PR or a fractional plate PR, you're banging and clanging, you're moving weight, and I see it. Where a back lever is going to be, if not months, years of hanging from a bar, tucking, doing this, doing that. So what is something actionable? What can they follow? Do you have a program that they can latch onto, or what would you say?
Yeah, CrossFit Gymnastics has regular skill work that we put out, and for a long time we did, more true what the community would consider as programming, and we realized that, like, we're redundant in a lot of what we're delivering in a standard program, because everybody's already getting in their training components. And so, to talk a little bit about like adaptation, I think most of your listeners probably follow, most people focus on the training aspect, and that's, those things that are going to drive adaptations to our organic pieces, right? And so, like, what we're neglecting as a community is practice, and that's the development of a lot of neurological pieces. And so that coordination, agility, balance, and accuracy, that is the practice that we need. And practice is hard for a lot of coaches to bring into their boxes initially, because people are so sold on like the WOD and the Metcon, because, they've seen tremendous improvement in their physiques. They've seen tremendous improvement in their fitness in a quantifiable sense. And practice is a little bit different, that you just have to buy into doing the damn thing. And I think that when we do start looking at, hey, as a community, let's practice gymnastics, we still try to train our gymnastics. And so, people want to work on their pull-ups or their toes to bar, and they're like, hell yeah, man, on Monday, I'll hit 100 pull-ups. On Wednesday, I'll hit 100 toes to bar. And it's like, whoa, buddy, back off. Like, spend 5 to 10 minutes a day working on formative gymnastic shapes. Or another thing that we really neglect as a community is paying attention to how we make progress with our weightlifting. We don't look at deliberately shortening the range of motion or changing the mechanics aggressively. We figure out, how can I reduce load so that I can move through the full range of motion with the full, sequence of human shapes and positions. Well, we can do that with gymnastics, but it's getting a spotter. And I think that's a hard thing for a lot of coaches to implement in their box, or for a lot of athletes to do initially, because they're looking at it in a very different context. How often do you guys pair up athletes on equipment in strength work at a gym? Why wouldn't you just program some gymnastic strength work and pair people up so that they can spot each other, have more safety? There's incredible social bonding that happens with, hands-on interaction, and they have a chance to move somebody through the full range of motion in the correct sequence of positions and shapes with just a reduced load. And so the same way that we can make a ton of progress in somebody's squat, you can make a ton of progress in a dip or a pull-up by applying the same underlying principles. So I mean, roundabout, like, start treating your gymnastics more like you treat your weightlifting in a gym. And like, you have all of the answers already as a community of coaches. We just think about these things applying differently rather than looking at the similarity.
And that's a good point, because I think people are afraid, like, hey, if I spot this, I spot that, I don't know what to do. It's like, most of the time it just means, hey, let go of the bar and land on your feet. Not going to be, it's like not that big of a deal. These movements are functional, they're inherently safe. And you learn all that at the CrossFit gymnastics seminar. I mean, you get just as much out of moving your own body as you do learning how to spot and teach other people. So
Oh yeah,
it,
I think that's a big missed opportunity for a lot of people to actually improve their own gymnastic movements, is not even necessarily going through them as an athlete, but really looking at, coaching and spotting somebody else in it. There's a tremendous amount that you can learn through that tactile feedback of seeing where somebody else's body weight shifts on the rings or on a bar, what muscles are firing and contracting, what's the line of action, what shape are they in. I would argue that you could get more from spotting than you would actually get from doing as an athlete. Most of us in our community, like, we get plenty of volume and there's plenty of like reps that go down. We do a whole lot of moving, but we don't have a chance with some of these higher level gymnastic pieces to step away and be real, critical thinkers of like, hey, how does this really operate? What are these joints in flexion or extension? Like, what kind of rotation am I looking at? So yeah, the spotting is really undervalued as a way for the actual active participant to make, progress on both sides of the movement.
Yeah, I love it. I think that's a great actionable piece of advice that box owners can take. And we did it, for example, the other day we did weighted strict pull-ups, and the guys were throwing weights on and, going heavy. And I had some of the women spot one another, the old school bend your knees, put your feet here, and have them work through it. And they had never done that before, and they loved it. And,
Yeah,
that's,
man, they get
that's how
to
they're
they
going to
get
get
to like create some true success. And so like, like we both mentioned in this, like, you have to kind of find different metrics of progress with gymnastics so that people don't get, super bummed out. They're like, oh, I still can't do a pull-up, I suck. And it's like, you just did a bunch of pull-ups, but it's just like at a reduced load. And so, I think for coaches, a good way to help your clients wrap their heads around it, to have a little bit more buy-in. And, without buy-in, nothing is successful. So to get your clients to buy into spotting, they need to understand that it isn't failure to be spotted. And I think that's why we think about it poorly with a lot of athletes in our community, because they think about spotting a bench press or spotting a back squat, that, oh, as soon as somebody's hands came in, like, this did not count, it was not valid, somebody, saved me from this lift that I had failed. But if we think about it correlated to percentages, that would be like saying, any snatch or clean and jerk that's below 100%, it doesn't count. And it's like, that spotter comes in and it's just a reduction in load. The movement itself doesn't change, but like, this is where, even for your RX athletes, to be able to be spotted through higher volumes and they could move through unaided, like, it's just like getting good, productive percentage work in for our lifting. We're just doing it with our body weight. And so I think that's kind of a big aha to get some people to look at it a little bit differently. It's not failure. All we're doing is reducing load so that we can have deliberate stimulus and adaptation relationships and make you a badass athlete while we're also staying super safe.
Yeah, I think, that when it comes to that scaling piece, people look at exactly what you're saying. It's like, I can reduce load on the snatch, but they feel like, okay, I'm scaling. But then on pull-ups, it's hard sometimes to reduce load, right? Or
Yeah,
handstand push-ups, and it becomes I can't do that movement versus I need to scale it to something that's moving that same range of motion.
yeah.
With the push in .com, do you like what you're seeing?
Like more than I can ever explain to people, because I think a lot of, athletes, coaches, clients, people really undervalue a lot of what's going on right now is the shift towards the health initiative and maybe resetting to some more true old school formative roots of CrossFit that is very gymnastic heavy. Um, the payoff isn't going to be in like 2 or 3 weeks, where like a lot of people want to smash metcons and crush weights and clang and bang because they're like, oh, you know what, 2 or 3 weeks out, like I'm going to PR something big in this. We start looking at, doing scales or just like spending 12 minutes working on stretching. These are things that pay off dividends for the rest of your life. We're looking at, hey, not what are your 30 or 60 day goals, but like looking at programming shifts like this that are more centered on human movement. Now we get to talk about, what are your 30 to 60 year goals? Not what you want to be able to crush by this summer, by this local comp. Like, what do you want to be able to crush with your great grandkids? I think that when the community wraps their head around the true benefit of what's going on right now, it'll be one of the most important shifts that we've ever seen in the community that I think will pay off tangibly and intangibly for everybody involved. But people are going to have to be a little bit patient, and they're going to have to really start thinking big picture about what it means to be fit. And I think of coaches and box owners, they're really going to have to start looking at true, life cycle of their members. And, like anybody that's done CrossFit for any appreciable length of time, like they're in. Like you can't quit, because as soon as you try to like quit, you're going to basically just start crossfitting your bodybuilding, or you're going to start crossfitting, your running, and it's infectious. And I can only say that because I'm empathetic to it. It's, I have gotten burned out as a coach and an athlete. There can be a point at which like you're doing too much. There is some diminishing returns, and there's a lot of wear and tear. It's a lot of work neurologically and physically. There was one point where I went and got a membership at an LA Fitness on West 7th Street in Fort Worth. And like I just needed a break from, the barbells, and I needed a break from, the loud music, and I needed just like a little bit of me time. Not because anything was necessarily wrong with CrossFit. It was a personal development piece that, I didn't develop the self-awareness in until later. But I went into that LA Fitness and I was like, you know what, man, I'm going to do some curls. I was like, I don't even know what a good weight is. I guess I'll grab some 40s, super standard dumbbell weight in CrossFit. So like already, like I probably should have known that something was up. Curls, I'm like, well, I don't know what kind of set and rep scheme to use. It's been years since I've done this. And I was like, well, I guess I'll just see how many curls I can get in 5 minutes.
8 to
Like
12. Always go
already,
8 to 12.
already I was like on the wrong track. And, within 60 seconds, it was max reps, hang power cleans, 240-pound dumbbells in 5 minutes. And I was like, shit, man, I made it exactly 0.5 of a workout before like I was right back in, because like there's so much validity and truth to what we do. Like all of us, we're sold on this, whether we want to be or not, for the rest of our lives, because we know it's the right answer. Like fitness is full of a bunch of snake oil salesmen and a bunch of silly bullshit. And like, we've all had the dust and the smoke cleared from before our eyes and like seen what really can be accomplished and how it goes down. So like, you're stuck doing this forever. You might as well enjoy it. And so if we're all going to do CrossFit for as long as we possibly can, dude, get some practice in, work on some stretching, work on some L-sits, because you've got the rest of your life to do it. There's no rush to, add those 10 pounds to that lift, before X date, unless you're, competing. And that's a little bit different. But when we look at like applying CrossFit as a training practice to be better in a functional fitness way for the rest of your life, man, you've got 50 or 60 good years of this. Like, enjoy it. Work on feeling better, work on moving better, work on, the community side of things. Like, go hang out with your buddies and like leave feeling better at the end of that hour than you did when you came in.
That's some life advice right there, Chuck. And I think, I think the people listening to this are bought in. Our listeners are on board. They've been doing this for a while. Maybe they're a coach, a box owner, and they're just like, yeah, I want to be healthy forever. And you're right. Most people don't leave CrossFit and go back to whatever they were doing. I think it's cool. Take a break, and whether it's go to LA Fitness, take a month and do yoga, or take a month and I'm just gonna be outside. It's summertime. But yeah, CrossFit is at this point there's no debating it, there's no arguing it. It's the best way to be fit for life. It's the best way towards health, as we put it at the level 1 seminar. And you're right. I mean, if you want to do more, because I'll tell you, when you're talking about these movements earlier, I'm like, all right, I got excited. I was like, I need to talk to Chuck. I need to get better at these movements. But I love CrossFit. So it's like, cool, let's find 20 minutes to practice every day. What they're putting on .com is exactly what you should be doing. And from a box owner perspective, I think we're realizing very few of our members are there thinking they're going to the games anymore. They understand what's happening. Leave them happier and healthier. And if you get them better at those gymnastic movements, they're going to be long-term members and you're improving their life. And that's really what it comes down to.
Yeah, and it's nice because, if on the client side, I think there's a lot that we need to do to educate our clients in this process to help them find more buy-in to these things that initially aren't sexy. They're not breathing super hard, they're not sweating a ton, they don't get brutally sore, but it's like, hey, understand where snatching a barbell, doing a muscle up, driving a car, and brushing your teeth have more similarity. Like, these are learned skills. And so if you can help them really appreciate like the process of skill development and start thinking about like their experience with fitness being a little bit more like learning to play an instrument, they understand like, oh, you know what, like this is me practicing how to move my body. And the nice thing is like they end up seeing huge tangible benefits to the rest of their fitness experience. Really doubling down on your gymnastics, guess what, you're going to be better at weightlifting. Guess what, like you're going to be able to crush Fran, Elizabeth, Diane, like these standard benchmark girl workouts like that have huge gymnastic biases in them. Spending some time practicing, like you do get to see this really easy, very quantifiable metric of fitness improving. And really it comes faster than I think most people would believe, but it's because they don't take that time to practice to have any basis for comparison. I would say the only basis for comparison that we have as coaches and as athletes in the community is during the open. Look at the amount of gymnastic progress that somebody can make in 4 days when a movement comes up in the open. They'll make more progress on toes to bar from Thursday to Monday than they made in 6 or 7 months prior. And the only things that had to change is they had to give a shit to really want to be better, and they just had to practice 3 or 4 days in a row. And they're like, oh man, I went from 2 toes to bar to now I can string a set of 15. And it's like, well, if you just would have cared a little bit more about pursuing virtuosity and you would have been willing to find frequency over volume or intensity, like these gains were waiting for you the whole time.
Yeah, I mean, that's every year the Open's notorious for first of this, first of that, bar muscle up, ring muscle up. I love what you just that was really classic, actually. You just had to give a shit. And I think I want to go back to something you said, because you said people love to train, not practice. And so they understand the difference. Oftentimes it's like, I need to get better at pull-ups. Like you said, I'll do 100 pull-ups or classic volume training. I'll do 5 on the minute for 20 minutes, or I'll do 3 till I can get to, first of all, I just called it volume training. I didn't call it volume, right? And training helps you develop some of those skills, but the biological, the organic ones. If you've gone to your level 1, you understand this. Practice helps you develop your neurological skills, your balance, accuracy, agility, and coordination. And those are vital because we talk about in the middle, power and speed. If you, in the example I like to use is the snatch, where I say, hey, if all you ever do is train the snatch, are you going to get better? Yeah, you're going to get stronger. No different than if all you ever did was practice the snatch, are you going to get better? Yeah, your foot position is going to get better. Coach Bergner was on here talking about missed lifts come from foot position, but you need both. And most people don't like to practice.
Yeah.
And practice keeps you safe, but practice gets you better. And I think that's a great analogy that I'm going to throw out to the box there. Yeah, I love it. Whether it's practicing an instrument or brushing your teeth, I always relate things. Parents are easy. Like, people they don't want to scale, they don't want to do this. And I'm like, well, would you let your kid get away with that if they were unhappy? Would you be like, hey, you can give up, you don't have to go to school anymore? And they're like, no. I'm like, well, why can you do that?
Right, and I think that's like part of, the real adaptations that all of us see is like, the between the ears stuff. Like fitness builds better humans because it teaches you about perseverance. It teaches you about grit and determination and consistency. Like the human characteristics that really define us, like improving on a deep level, those are also hidden in a lot of gymnastic stuff that is also like the physiological stuff of being better for the rest of your life. You and I have spent big chunks of our life in Florida. What's unique about Florida? Like that's where people go to hang out waiting to die. And like you get to really see people that have prioritized gymnastics in some form or fashion. And I think we overcomplicate like what we think about as gymnastics. Like it's just moving your body. Don't get weird. But like people that prioritize like moving their body get to do really cool, fun, amazing things for their entire life. But a lot of people that neglect that, they end up, a day late and a buck short. And like that is for sure not how I want to spend my 70s, 80s, and 90s, you know, in assisted living. Having somebody else wipe my ass or get me in and out of a chair, like you might not want to practice gymnastics now and you might want to train it. It's because you're thinking about, 100 pull-ups or 100 toes to bar, 30 muscle ups. You're not thinking about being fit for a lifetime, having health, like being able to see multiple generations of your family exist. Like those are the big PRs. There's something really beautiful about gymnastics, and I think it's a lot of like the human development that we get, physically, neurologically. There's a lot about community that I don't think we appreciate with gymnastics, but I don't know, man. I could talk about it all damn day.
Yeah, I mean, just so the listeners are aware, as I go through the interview, I'm taking notes and I'm bolding things that I think this would be a great clip, and I've got like 7 already from you. So it's like it's tough because you're absolutely right. I joke about like, everybody moves to Florida and then they die. Like there's something wrong in Florida.
It's the
But
Sharks.
it's old people down here, and it's my step grandmother is in assisted living, and I hate visiting her there because it's depressing. These people are there
Yeah,
mentally, and I went there a couple weeks ago, and they were literally, these are adult human beings sitting in chairs kicking a beach ball. Like that was their activity for the day.
yeah,
And I,
man.
and, I was with my mom, and I said to my mom, I was like, if I'm ever like this, like someone needs to shoot me, and
Yeah,
because I don't want to be there. And sure, you need to be able to lift weights. If you can't deadlift your body weight, at some point, that's a problem as well. But we put so much. I mean, look at people that are like, I'm tight, this mobility, that. You think that's going to get better as you get older? Gymnastics is one of the best ways to get mobile for your body, but you're also getting better at a skill. You're not just slapping a band on a rig and stretching.
right.
But no one wants to do skin to cats.
Yeah, which like that would make quantifiable progress in literally every area of their life. And I know a lot of people are like, well, that's a fucking stretch. You're just trying to sell it. Like, man, there is no benefit in my life for you being healthier, but like I promise you these things to be true. Like you want to be able to reach from the driver's seat into the back seat without your shoulder hating you. You want to be able to take your shirt on and off without like gross AC impingement. Like, or do you want to, snatch more, clean and jerk more, and like walk on your hands? Like I promise you all of those things are improved by something like a skin the cat, not detrimented by it.
You know what? You got me fired up. I go coach soon. I'm incorporating something today, and that's all you have to do. It doesn't. And today has a double unders toes. There we go, toes to bar. We'll spot that a little bit. We can help people tuck their knees a little higher, get their toes up a little further, work on their candlesticks, but all things that are going to lend themselves to something else. And I think this has become a knowledgeable interview, but we talk about universal motor recruitment pattern at the level 1, and people are often like, they're kind of left with that, and it's like, what is that? And that means these
Yeah.
movements all lend themselves to one another. And the example I use is that hollow hold. And all my hollow jokes, by the way, come from Tucker. You had me at hollow and hollow back, all those things. Every time I say hollow, I throw out one of those. But that's the same position as the kip, as the toes to bar, which also happens to be the same position as your handstand push-up, which also happens to be the same position as your overhead movements and your thrusters, right? So if you're improving your gymnastics, which is oftentimes also less wear and tear on your body, and you can, by the way, do it at home in your
Anywhere.
right in your bed, in your hotel room. Why wouldn't you be doing that? I think that's great to hear, and it's cool to see also. Some of the best athletes in the world. I follow a lot of MMA, and Conor McGregor was bringing in, Ido
Ida
Portal,
Portal, man.
yeah, who's movement specialist, not necessarily. It's controlling your body, right? It's gymnastics, and if one of the best fighters of our generation is finding the importance of it, I think we should as well.
Well, I mean, even if you look at, like Arnold in his heyday, like he would go to ballet classes, for like a dude whose entire mission is to just be like the most jacked, yoked human on the planet, when he was busy winning Mr. Olympia, is like if he sees enough value and benefit from working on those neurological components and then adding flexibility to it, like it should tell you something that like there is nobody that is exempt from the potential benefits of working on just moving your body better. Like any realm, whether it's athletic or otherwise, like you have nothing to lose and everything to gain by spending just a little bit more time working on your gymnastics. You hit on something really awesome, and just the universal side and the transfer side. The most actionable, practical thing I could give any coaches listening to this: just throw in some hollow and arch work in your warm-ups more often than not. If you did that 3 or 4 times a week, you had people working on some hollow holds and some arch holds, or arch rocks, hollow rocks, whatever your flavor is, you are going to see benefits across the board in everybody's gymnastics, but also in all of their external object loading. Because if you look at, as we move through anything that we're doing in real life or CrossFit, your spine is moving through some degrees of flexion and extension with some amount of bracing in the midline. And so like, you don't have to wait for workouts. Like you've got toes to bar today, in your class piece, your coaches, like they don't need to only find gymnastic workouts to work on some gymnastic skill pieces in warm-ups and in skill transfer sessions, because it already automatically shows up in everything else that we do. So like you don't have to wait for the toes to bar to work on some hollow and arch stuff in a warm-up or a skill work piece. Throw it on a day with kettlebells, throw it on a day with barbells.
And I
It
challenge the listeners to see that. Like as you say kettlebell, I immediately see the hollow and the Superman position, the arch, right? Because when that bell's overhead, how many people create that neutral spine? Most people are in slight overextension there. So absolutely. And I'll tell you this, I do that all the time, probably because I learned it from you guys and Tucker, but also people love that because they feel it in their abs. And then
dude, that like
they
you
think
you
they're
talk
getting a
about
six
like,
pack.
yeah, like making your clients happy, giving them that best hour of their day. Like there is an art to being able to give people what they want in order to get them what they need. They
Yeah.
need midline stability, they need a safe, healthy spine, they need good disc and vertebrae relationships. None of your clients really give a shit if you're talking about it that way. You're like, hey man, you want to feel your abs light up, work on that core, bro? Summer's almost here. They're like, oh dude, let's shred abs. And you're like, all right, cool.
Tabata Hollow is one of the best and hardest things that you
Brutal.
can do. So,
Brutal.
or I do that a lot because I coach twice a week and I love it. It's one of my two of my favorite hours of the week, and I try to maximize that hour. So if I have 4 minutes, I throw that in all the time. In the warm ups, I'll do like the call it out hollow, Superman hollow, roll right, roll left, and their abs get lit up. They love it. Or even just I brought out the parallettes a couple weeks ago,
Yeah,
and
man.
some of the dudes that think they're strong couldn't even hold it with their knees bent.
Yeah. That's and if we're looking at like performance athletically, if we're looking at safety for our client base, like it's another win for gymnastics. Like you want to build bulletproof athletes that also get to, crush everything fitnessy. It's always the gymnastics. What separates huge chunks of placing on a leaderboard, always, regardless of it being, a local competition or the open or the games, like something gymnastic is the differentiator. But that's also, what allows your great grandma to be able to sit up out of bed or roll do a push-up, and then like, get into a standing position to go about her day. It's both ends of the spectrum. It's, I don't know, man, it gets me so fired up. I'm sorry, I get ranty. I love it.
I love it. And as you're saying that, I'm thinking it's like, who looks the most like CrossFitters? Gymnasts.
For sure.
You know, most people when they think of their ideal body, it's a gymnastics body. It's what it's men gymnasts for the guys, it's the females for the girls, and what they can do is impressive. You can take it on the dance floor, and you
Yeah,
can.
man. It'll help you smash PRs. It'll help you make babies. Gymnastics is sexy, and like it's safe. Um, I like to always kind of think about like what I can do to be of value to like coaches and box owners. Something that's really important to think about with gymnastics is like it's not intimidating to new clients. Like if you have somebody new show up and on day one, like you've got snatches going on, like that's a weird, difficult, awkward thing for somebody to wrap their head around. And it's also hard for them to see like, what's the benefit in it? Like, why should I even care about snatching? You can obviously do a ton of education in that, but like, that's a really hard thing to do in a short amount of time. If you got Cindy going on, it is almost just like inevitable to somebody to make their own correlation as to like why this is important. Like, oh, pull up, a push up, a squat. Like, can you get up and down? Can you push yourself up and down? Can you pull yourself up to something? Like, cool. Now I understand how CrossFit makes me better outside of the gym. So you get like a big bonus of safety. There's tons of extra proficiency in the skill development neurologically. You get to work on people's connective tissue. Like I don't know, I would say at this point, like it would be inexcusable as a coach or a box owner that claims to really care about people to not do a pretty significant amount of gymnastics. I feel like it's almost irresponsible to shy away from it. And the reason we see boxes shy away from it is because their coaches are missing competence in coaching the gymnastics. I think a lot of people move into coaching and they're like, man, it makes me so nervous to think about teaching somebody to snatch or overhead squat. And after a few months of coaching, they're like, oh, you know what? Like coaching weightlifting comparatively is like fairly simple. Like I can give you a piece of PVC and we can go from never having even heard of a snatch before to some rough form of a snatch in like 30 minutes or less, money back guaranteed. But you look at something like a muscle up or toes to bar and you're like, hey, potentially weeks, months, or years to get this. And like coaches don't understand like how they can explain the benefit of it, but how they can also build logical, safe, sequential progressions to those movements so that like their clients are moving rapidly towards success in that. And so like they go to like what's easy, what they know. It's like, hey man, I know I can give this client a quick win. They can throw some weight on the bar or they can take a couple seconds off this run or row time. Cool. I sold them. They get a win. I get to be the one that gave them a win. Like it's an easy ego stroke for both parties. Gymnastics is like, you better fucking humble yourself as an athlete and a coach. But the benefit in that for people that derive their livelihood from coaching is like, cool, then you're not working on people's 60, day goals. Like you can work on a 60-year goal. You can help your clients think about, hey, how do you want to, build this progression towards your muscle up that's going to take us probably 3 or 4 years? Like that's a way better client to work with because they're already looking at a very long-term relationship with you as a service provider. And they're starting to understand the long-term nature of pursuing fitness for a lifetime with their own bodies. So like they make smarter, more responsible decisions and how they work on, scaling load. And you get to, as a service provider, build somebody that's already looking at this financial transaction relationship across multiple years. And I mean, I would much rather have that as a business owner or a coach, getting paid, like not helping you figure out abs by 4th of July, but helping you figure out like, building a muscle up over the course of 4 years. Like that's a pretty cool place to be in.
That is a great place to be, and you're just challenging yourself as a coach. I think that's something you said that's important. If this is truly your passion, I've had some of the best coaches in the world on here, and if you're not trying to learn new things, that's a problem. The average CrossFit coach can coach all the barbell movements, but can you coach a lever? And if you can't, that's a chink in your armor, and that's a weakness. And no different than your fitness, you should be chasing after those weaknesses.
Yeah, and like you said, you made a reference into just like the kettlebell swing, being able to see hollow and arch positions. If you really double down on building your skill set with coaching gymnastics, all of a sudden you have a great ability to develop your coaching eye and spot flaws in just basic human shapes and sequences, where like what you develop as a coach teaching people gymnastics will pay for itself 10 times over on barbell and kettlebell pieces. And it almost like, if you could do one thing to accelerate all of your progress as either an athlete or a coach, doesn't matter, like go hard on the gymnastics from a learning perspective for a few months. And it will give you years worth of experience and development, either as a coach or an athlete. So there's like really no reason not to.
You've said a lot, Chuck, and I think you've
I'm
probably gained some new fans. We can continue to talk about this forever, but I think one cool thing we can do in the future is have you on and we can dissect some of the gymnastic movements and maybe talk about how to go about teaching it.
Dude, I would love that.
So we'll
Love
do
it.
that in the future. But I always ask every guest on here, what's a book you recommend that the listeners check out? And it doesn't have to be a gymnastics book, just any book you love.
Something timely, and it seemed to have resonated with a lot of people, based on an Instagram post I did the other day. Building a Story Brand by, I think, Donald Miller or potentially David Miller.
I'm actually in the middle of that right now. I think I forget what other guest mentioned it, but I think it was E.C. Sinkowski, actually. She brought that up, and Roz and I were already reading it. So great book. I highly agree with you.
Yeah, I think that it really lends itself to some of that like empathy and care side of things, because, as coaches, like you can have all the best answers in the world, especially specific to gymnastics. That's a hard thing to get your clients and athletes to buy into, especially when they suck at it, especially when you start talking about like, hey, you're probably not going to hit this goal for 4 or 5 years. But if you can develop your ability to see things in a story context and start recognizing how you guide people on their own journey, it will be an invaluable piece of your skill set that there really isn't a way to quantify, but it definitely will accelerate your process in creating and deepening relationships with your clients and athletes.
I really enjoy that book, and I highly recommend, if whether you're a coach or just like you said, just trying to develop that empathy, it'd be a great tool to just improve your life. Check that out, and check out Chuck. Where can they find you on Instagram?
At Chuck Bennington. It's pretty easy peasy. It's my name.
I love it. And then where else can they find you? They can check out CrossFit Gymnastics, like you
CrossFit
mentioned.
Gymnastics is at CF Gymnastics. We post an insane amount of progressions and skills and scales. And I would say that the CrossFit Gymnastics Instagram is the single best resource that exists on all of the internet for the gymnastics specific to what we do in CrossFit and pursuing fitness. There's a lot of great fitness resources in the world. There's a lot of great gymnastic resources in the world, but we fit a very unique piece of our little niche that we understand what it means to work on developing your gymnastics as a mixed modal athlete. And that could be an entirely separate podcasting conversation, but I don't want to get too deep into it. But yeah, man, we know what you guys are doing. We know what that struggle is like. Most of our staff owns gyms. Everybody on our staff has been coaching, general population people for years and years and years. It is not hypothetical advice that just seems like it might be a good fit in the context of being a specialty education piece. Like, we go deep into the weeds on like how to really get a bunch of people that generally don't initially care about gymnastics to really buy into practicing and finding that virtuosity.
I love it, Chuck. I appreciate you being on here, and you will be on again.
I appreciate you, man. You're doing something that is very near dear to my heart. I'm happy to see other people, deep in the coaching world like ourselves, that are trying to make sure that we round out the fitness of the coach, with their delivery, with their communication, with their leadership. Everybody's got a tons of technical knowledge. We need to help people figure out, the developmental and transformational side of like connecting with their people a little bit better.
It's just like training. Everybody wants to work on the sexy stuff, but and then I'll take that one step further. It's that non-sexy stuff that really relates to the rest of your life, like you said.
100%.
If you want to, be wiping your own ass, or you want to be in a strong marriage, right? It's the things you don't want to work on that get you there. That was deep. We just had a really deep conversation. I enjoyed it. If I didn't have to,
that might be a fun episode to do, is like the a relationship meets coaching episode, like, you know, coaching your wife or coaching your girlfriend or vice versa.
No, because here's how that goes. Don't do it.
Oh, dude, you know, there is a way, man. I mean, it's that hard stuff that nobody wants to work on. But if you can get to where you can coach your significant other in like a healthy, productive manner, and like nobody gets slapped or stabbed or shot, like you figured out everything you need to, like with communication and leadership and empathy. That's the ultimate test.
I'll give you that. I like that. Maybe it will be a future topic. I don't know if I'm qualified to do it just yet because Roz hates when I coach her, but we'll see. But I appreciate you being on here, Chuck. So thanks
Dude, thank
again.
you so much, man. Genuinely, like from the bottom of my heart, thank you for what you're doing. It is important on a level that most people probably don't understand or appreciate just yet.